World Wide Web. I'm Shado, the internet personality with the best ass. Well, since I've decided to pick on Jean-Claude Van Damme so much, I figure I may as well take a look at the film which he is certainly most well known for.
Now, are you the same as Sagat and Bison? Or am I right? And you're different?
No, not Street Fighter. I know everyone knows he starred in that abomination, but he never would have if he hadn't become a household name in the 1988 martial arts movie Bloodsport. Based on the true story of Frank Dux, Bloodsport wasn't the first film Van Damme was associated with, but it was the one that seriously launched his career in film. Now, despite being based on true events, it is still a movie, and I have to say, more than a few things do seem a little contrived. But that's what I'm here for, to judge the movie as just that, a movie. So let's see if Van Damme did Dux justice, or if the director should be awarded a démac. Opening up, we see Hong Kong as everyone is preparing for the Kumite, the event which the entire film revolves around. This introduces us to such competitors as Liu Kang here, shown kicking Sub-Zero's ass, and many other racial stereotypes that will be used years later in the arcade game Street Fighter. The introduction ends as it brings us to Frank Dux, played by Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Colonel Cook would like to see you before you leave on furlough.
What's the problem?
The Colonel found out you're going to Hong Kong. He wants to talk to you about it.
Tell him I'll be right there after I take a shower.
But I'll have to wait, sir.
Such a riveting performance. How did this kid not win an Oscar? While Frank is all wet and naked, he decides this is the best time to run off, evading the Colonel's orders. And we do get a nice 80s beat kick in here. But it turns out Dux' superiors are highly displeased that he is going to Hong Kong and intend to stop him. Why? What business is it of theirs what he does on his leave? What, if he's going to go and get himself killed, it has to be on their orders? But first, Frank stops off at the home of the Tanakas. While there, he sees the katana on the mantle and begins to have a flashback. A flashback that will consist of the next 10 minutes of this movie. Frank was a very confused child, hanging with a bad crowd while wearing a New York Giants jersey and a San Francisco Giants cap. He is caught by the Tanaka family, and the father confronts him.
You cannot get katana sword by stealing.
I wasn't going to steal it.
You didn't flinch. You have fighting spirit.
Either that, or he's, not all there. So, Mr. Tanaka talks it over with Frank's parents, offering martial arts training for Frank, which translates to Frank getting his ass kicked by the Tanaka kid. He doesn't much like this and expresses his discontent.
How come you coach him but not me?
I brought you here to help me train my son. Don't question me.
If you expect me to be punching bad, you can forget about our deal.
It's not that bad a deal. Come on, I mean, I paid to have 2 Kenpo seminars with Joe Palazzo, and in both of them, he used me as a punching bag. I felt honored. Evidently that worked for Frank, as he uses his abilities to defend the much better trained Tanaka boy in school.
Someday, I'll fight in the Kumite and make my father proud.
Yeah, nothing fills a dad with more joy than seeing their only son beat the living shit out of people. But sadly, that day never will come for him, and Frank proposes an alternative to Mr. Tanaka.
Teach me. I can do it.
You are not Japanese.
Neither are you, Roy. You're Chinese. You were born in Shanghai. So Frank's most intense training begins, with Mr. Tanaka throwing him with the power of his stare alone. This sequence works pretty well as both actors move with enough grace, and you see both a steady increase in Frank's abilities and the difficulty of his training. Near the end of his training, we even see him being taught to use the Force to see. I want to dig up! I don't know if that pissed off Mr. Tanaka or what, but it looks like he then decides to simply torture Frank. Well, I certainly must say it looks like they skipped over this part when I was training. But naturally, Frank pulls his strength together and passes the test, thus ending our excessively long flashback sequence. So Frank says hello, there are exchanges of well-wishing, and we move on. Did he even have enough time for that huge flashback?
This your first time in Hong Kong? You two are here for the Kumite, aren't you?
You wouldn't happen to be the love interest of this film, would you?
Kumite? What is Kumite?
Look, guys, I know there's a secret full-contact event being held in Hong Kong in the next few days.
You know, for being so secret, everyone seems to be pretty damn knowledgeable about the Kumite. But Frank does manage to meet Jackson here, and they bond over an arcade fighting game, Karate Champ.
Aren't you a little old for video games?
Oh, don't be so harsh on him! The game was running in single-player mode! Soon enough, though, we are introduced to the agents brought in to track Dux down, Helmer and Rollins, played by Norman Burton and Forrest Whitaker, respectively.
Mrs. Tanaka?
Yes?
Mrs. Tanaka, it's very important to the government of the United States that we find Frank Dux. Did he say, or do you know if he was going to Hong Kong?
I don't know.
Of course you know. Look, we're not trying to...
Mrs. Tanaka, we're very sorry to have disturbed you. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, if you both knew he was going to go to Hong Kong anyway, wouldn't it have been a lot faster to just go to Hong Kong instead of stopping off to harass the Tanaka family? Though the next scene introduces us to one of my favorite characters, Mr. Lin, played by Ken Soo. He generally works as a tour guide for the two of them, but he has a very high-energy way of expressing himself.
No. It's Dux.
Gotcha. Like put up your dukes, right?
A transition later, they reach the Kumite, but Asian Torgo questions the validity of Frank's invitation.
It says he represents the Tanaka clan. You don't look like Tanaka.
I am Torgo. I take care of the place while the master is away.
What's the difference if Bruce Springsteen is a Shidoshi?
To prove Senzo was his trainer, he is told to perform a demak. Okay, that is a pretty impressive stunt, but it's not a demak. But the judges don't seem to mind, and Frank's invitation is honored. Later that night, Love Interest is having some trouble with the other competitors. Fortunately, Frank just so happens to be there to upset the situation.
We could arrange this another way. Do you gamble?
What is bet?
You hold this. If I can grab it before you close your hand, I get the girl. If I cannot, she's yours.
Very good.
What? You can't do this.
Just relax.
Trust me, I saw it on Kung Fu! His success in this stunt comes as no surprise, though they do put an interesting twist on it in this movie. So it turns out she's a reporter, and she's interested in doing a story on the Kumite, and despite the fact that everyone knows everything about it in this movie, it being a secret means she doesn't know anything useful.
But I've heard that it's unnecessarily brutal. Like a cockfight, except it's with people.
No, that's the UFC. Frank agrees to talk to her the following night. That night, however, is the official start of the Kumite, and in its tradition, begins with exposition before starting the first fight.
Now remember,
It's full contact. There are 3 ways to win. 1, you knock the guy out. 2, the opponent quits and shouts Mate. It's like saying uncle. 3, you throw the fucker right off the runway.
Piece of cake. That's why they call this thing Bloodsport, kid.
What, the movie? 'Cause this is the only time in it anyone even says those words. These first few fights are pretty well done and come off more like they just told the actors to go at it and rolled camera.
It's Chong Li, the current champ.
He's never been defeated. Holds all sorts of records, including the fastest KO. He killed a guy during the last Kumite.
Yep, kicked the poor bastard right in the throat. I died right there on the platform. Chong Li stood there and watched him die.
So what you're saying is he's the antagonist of this film? Well, the music seems to say so. But wouldn't you know it, Frank just so happens to break that new record right in his first match of the Kumite.
First fight of the Kumite, he broke the fucking world record!
Wait, so you mean to tell me that in the 200-year history of the Kumite, no one has ever knocked someone out in less than 15 seconds?
I'm gonna kill you, man! Yeah, you, man! You got it!
The remainder of this sequence becomes a traditional fighting montage, with the requirement of any 80s film readily present, a theme song.
My body's ready, my heart's on fire. I'm gonna push it over the wire.
But soon enough, the agents track down Dux and threaten him with stun guns before Jackson provides him with the opportunity to escape. This leads into a chase, and what in the hell?
Everyone you lose, every time you cry, every time you lie, everywhere you look, they just never know. And ain't it strange, 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 when the morning comes.
Okay, apparently they decided that being chased by government agents calls for a light-hearted comedic chase.
You'll be where you belong. You're still the night. See the dawn, and still the night.
Following this confusing scene, we find Frank and love interest having dinner as promised. He tells her a lot about the Kumite, but she wants to get in to see for herself. The conveniently secret Kumite rule blocks her attempts, however, so she changes the subject.
I'd really like to get to know you. After all, we have all night.
Oh, this movie doesn't have a gratuitous sex scene. I guess Bloodsport has a little taste. Turns out she got such a good look at his ass, she followed it all the way to the Kumite and snuck inside.
This isn't the first time I've had to go undercover to get a story.
Likely it's not the first time you've gone under the covers for a story either. This view of the Kumite starts out with another fighting montage, but the music isn't as catchy as the last one.
Hashi! Hazami!
After quite a lot of fights, it's Chong Li versus Jackson. He does well at first, but his showboating gives Li the opportunity he needs to recover.
Finish it.
Oh, damn, this just got dark. Frank promises to avenge Jackson's defeat, but love interest doesn't want to hear it.
Frank, I don't want to see you get hurt.
Then don't watch.
He tries to calm her and offers her a very valid point.
And you want to be the best reporter you can be. For him and yourself, right?
Yes, that's right.
Well, I'm just trying to be the best I can be. Not just for me. For Tanaka and my Shidoshi too.
Great, Frank. That's just great. Go right ahead. I just hope you don't end up like Jackson or worse. But I'm not gonna stand around and watch it.
Well, way to not give a shit. Well, if you're not gonna stand there and watch it, what are you gonna do exactly? Guess that works too. So the best way to deal with this highly emotional situation is a... an emotional montage? Just how many montages are in this movie? Truth be told, this sequence does a good job at expressing the turmoil Frank is facing at the time, and the music is not bad if you like 80s ballads. But the next day, Frank faces resistance as he heads to the Kumite, but finds the agents teamed up with the military to block his entry. Of course Frank gets by them, but it is surprising to see just how easily he brushes them aside.
Okay, Frank, you win. But it's wrong what you're doing. It's a mistake.
I'll meet you at the airport tomorrow.
This apparently is taking too long for Torgo, though, who threatens to disqualify Frank.
I'll give you my word, he'll be here.
We must follow the rules.
But the child, I'm not sure the master would approve. Or the dog. The master doesn't like children.
But of course, he does come in just at the nick of time to make it, and the agents along with love interest enter, finding 3 vacant seats, front row and center. So, officially speaking, their new plan to take Dux in is to enjoy the show. God, I love 80s logic. The fights kick in short order, but for some reason, Frank's fight with Paco looks like a challenge to see who has more hit points. Exciting. Chong Li's fight is a bit more interesting, with the awesome evil theme music. Not to mention... fatality. His fight held a bit more weight.
You are next.
Well, yeah, obviously. You're the last 2 fighters in the tournament. Of course he's in that... Oh, you mean dead. So as they prepare, Chong Li's assistant slips a pill into his... So their battle is underway, and Frank is doing reasonably well despite a few setbacks. However, Chong Li takes out his topical Viagra and proves that yes, you will go blind. As such, the tables quickly turn, leading Frank to some honestly strange screaming. But he finally takes the time to remember that, yeah, he was trained a lot on how to fight blind, and continues the battle. I would note his victory as skill on his part, but I can't help but notice that his opponent just doesn't seem to learn that you should avoid getting kicked in the face after the 3rd time. He forces him to concede and is awarded a katana.
This is for you, Shidoshi.
Last we saw, he wasn't dead. You can show it off to him in person later. Next we see Jackson, who is healing his head injury with heavy doses of alcohol, as Frank and love interest tell him what happened.
He made him say Mate.
All right, Frankie. But don't you get too cocky, because you might have to go up against me next time.
I promise.
You guys are out of your minds.
You crazy men, and you're beating the crap out of each other. It's so cute when you look at it that way.
Anytime, any place, anywhere. If you ever need me, I'll be there.
Sweet! I wish I had my own personal drunken Batman with an epic beard. And that finally brings us to the airport, where Helmer and Rollins are waiting for Frank to show.
He's not going to show.
It looks like he did it to us again, huh?
Hey guys! You're coming or what?
Oh, you crazy 1980s endings. And that brings our story to a close with a text-based epilogue showing cliff notes from Frank Dux' career and... Wait a minute. It says he retired in 1980, but this movie showed him and Jackson playing Karate Champ, which didn't come out until 1984. And of course the fashion and setting were all clearly late 80s, but damn it, they screwed up historical video game accuracy!
You like this kind of fighting, huh?
Yeah.
So that was Bloodsport, the film that made Jean-Claude Van Damme a household name, and although I can see why it was memorable, the quality of the film is a whole other matter entirely. As a martial arts film, this does its job. There are plenty of fighting sequences to be had, and as it's based on a true story, the fights do well in terms of realism. However, there are more than a few spots that are over the top and made up just for the sake of the movie. The characters are pretty standard archetypes, and a lot of them aren't exactly phenomenal actors, but overall, the average quality of acting in this film is actually quite good and helps to draw you into the movie. As a gamer, it's also fun to see just how many things from Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat were obviously inspired by this movie. The pacing of this movie is very 80s, with so much time devoted to montages and the 80s pop soundtrack, it almost feels unbalanced. When you look at it objectively, based on the strictest measures of quality for what this movie offers, it's pretty well below average, winning only 2 Van Damme asses out of 5. But you know what? I don't really rate things based on whether they were high-quality material or not. I rate them based on how much I like them. Movies are supposed to be entertaining, and this one delivers that on all fronts. The fighting is exciting, the characters are fun to watch, and although it did feel unbalanced, I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy the montage sequences. So to me, Bloodsport is worth a good 4 katanas out of 5. It's not amazingly good, but it's definitely entertaining, worth watching a few times if you're a fan of the genre. Thank you all for watching, I've been Shado, and remember, if your girlfriend doesn't like you beating people up, just beat them up harder!
My body's ready, my heart's on fire. I'm gonna push it over the wire. Perfect timing, tight as a drum. You find the battle's already won. I'm taking hold of every moment, given strength by the breath of life. I'm gonna stake my claim. I'll fight to survive.
That hurts me just looking at it.